Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on whichever part of the world you are tuning in from. I'm excited to welcome you to yet another promising edition of the X Speed Live. But before we begin, let's go through our normal daily routine by confirming that we are all good to go this morning. So if you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, please let me know in the comment section by typing in hi. Let me know in the comment section, as this will give me a feedback that we are good to go this morning. So I will load up my comment box and let's allow the comments to roll in for confirmation, please. All right. So what do we have here? Give me a moment, please. Let me sit through this. Okay, so I can see 22518, 174, 9876. I can see 583. Good morning to you. A carry. Good morning. Thank you very much for your feedback. I can see Skyborn. All right. So thank you very much, guys. And I would like to take this as a positive feedback that we are all good to go this morning. And it's on this note I welcome you once again to another promising edition of the Extra Speed Live. My name is Sheriff Daramola, and for the next 1 hour, I'm going to be your host, where I will be taking you through a trading journey where we shall be evaluating the financial market using simple parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and of course chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical price movement of all of the assets on our watch list for this week. So, since the beginning of this week, we have been monitoring four major financial assets, which include the US All Spot, the USTech100, popularly known as the NASDAQ, and then we've been looking at the XAUUSD, that's the gold spot, and of course the GBPUSD. So we are going to be reviewing all this, and in fact, I have simple and interesting setups that I'm excited to share with you this morning. So I encourage you to stay tuned in so you don't miss out on any of these insightful ideas I will be taking you all through. For those who are joining us for the first time, you're highly welcome on board. I'm so excited. I'm very glad to always have newcomers in the house. And you might be asking, what is it that we are doing here and what is this all about? Well, we as technical traders, we come together as a community on a daily basis in anticipation of the New York session, where we come to review how well our positions are doing, see how to manage them using the information we have on the chart, and at the same time strategically position ourselves ahead of the New York session. So we do this on a daily basis, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time. And I encourage you to stay tuned in to the end of the session and in fact be part of the subsequent edition of this live session, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how things works here and eventually be able to use the information you have gathered here to make your own independent trading decisions. So once again, I welcome you all on board. And as usual, the first thing we are going to be doing here is to run through the economic calendar, of course, as you all know by now, for those who have been with us for a while now, know how important this is, as these fundamental factors often manifest on the chart in technical patterns and price movements. By monitoring the economic calendar, we can identify potential correlations between key economic releases and specific technical patterns on the chart, thereby giving us valuable insight into how we can position ourselves in such a way that we can capitalize on any of this potential move prior, during, and even after this event. So, based on the assets we have been monitoring so far this week, we are going to be focusing on high impact events from economies that affects this asset, which includes the United States, the United Kingdom, and of course, okay, the Japanese economy is not part of what we are looking at. So we are going to be looking at both the United States and the United Kingdom's data coming in from those dockets. Now, for today, Tuesday, September 12th, we had three high impact events all coming in from the United Kingdom's economy, and in fact, these are very key indicators of the economy. They are all labor data, and none of them actually came in very positive, as all of them came in below expectation, which is not something promising for the pound sterling. And in fact, we saw how the market has reacted to this event, as we saw some selling pressure resume during the early hours of today. So we are going to be looking at that and see how we are going to be positioning ourselves for today's trading session. So with the information we have gathered here, besides this, there are no other high impact events. So we shall be diving right into the chart to look at things from a technical standpoint. So the first instrument we are going to be looking at this morning is, of course, the US All Spot, which has been doing pretty well since in the last 24 hours, though it was quite a little bit of roller coasters of buyers and sellers trying to make an headway since the beginning of the week. But finally, the buyers are beginning to gain momentum, as you will see here that in the last 24 hours, price action had consistently found higher highs and higher lows to further buttress the build up in momentum for the buyers. Now, let's look at how the week started for us here on the US All Sports and what led to the idea of considering buying this asset. Now, remember at the beginning of the week, that was yesterday, we saw this situation here on the 1 hour time frame where price action, the week started with a bit of consolidation phase here, as we saw price confined within that range between the $86.89 level and the $86.20 area to emphasize the level of uncertainty in the market at that point in time. And of course, we marked out the zones, and you know how we do it whenever we have this kind of uncertainty resulting in a flat channel on the chart. We want to exercise patience, waiting for a signal to come in the form of a breakout of the resistance line to give us an opportunity to buy, or the breakdown of the support line to give us an opportunity to sell. And of course, the breakdown of the support line never happened, as we saw price action did a final breakout of the $86.89 level to incite that bullish momentum. And in fact, if you had missed out on the first opportunity, the market came back to retest that structures multiple times. I think within the face of about 7-8 hours, the market was simply around that resistance line. So we had quite a lot of time to be part of this uptrend situation, and I do hope you had your stop losses in place just right around that support line as we had projected yesterday. And in fact, if you are taking advantage of this opportunity, you will currently be running with about 60 pips in profit right now. And for those who took advantage of this opportunity, well done to you for being on standby to capitalize on this move. Now, as always, you know how we do it. When price action moves significantly well in our favor, the next thing we want to be doing is to move our stop losses accordingly to secure this current buy position. And from the look of things right now, we still really have not seen a breakout of that our key level situated at the $87.50 area to emphasize this momentum at this point in time. So I will be encouraging us to move our stop loss to our entry zone right now. So we shouldn't be considering this as any profit at this point in time. Move all stop losses to the entry point, and let's see how price action will play out from that area. Now, with a well secured position at this juncture, what is going to be our next line of action for today? What is it that we are going to be looking forward to on this chart? Will this bullish momentum continue to the upside, or are there chances that sellers will come in, considering how that area around the $87.50 level had been a major barrier for buyers since the beginning of this month? Now, before we go into the details of what our expectation is going to be looking like, I would like us to run through the higher time frame to have an holistic perspective into what is really going on here, and at the same time, for those who are not part of our live session yesterday, to be able to be on the same page with us. So the first thing we did at the beginning of the week was to run through the 4 hours time frame, where we were able to identify significant parameters that we said we were going to use to guide our trading decisions for this week. And one of the first things we observed here, after taking into consideration the nature of price action in the last couple of weeks, is the fact that price action has been on a strong bullish momentum. And to further emphasize the strength of the buyers in this market, we have an ascending trend line here after connecting the series of higher lows, as you will see right here. And this further buttresses the strength of the buyers. And of course, when price remains above our ascending trend line, we of course want to be looking out for patterns and structures that will support the idea of buying that asset, and will not be selling unless price significantly breaks down that ascending trend line. Then, in addition to the ascending trend line, we zoomed right into the nature of price action since the beginning of this month. And one obvious thing we saw here is the consolidation phase, where price action had remained confined within the $87.50 area and the $85.50 level, to further emphasize the level of indecision in this market. And you know how we do it whenever we have a flat range like this. We want to exercise patience, waiting for price to break out or break down of that range to give us an opportunity to trade. But one thing we did this week, at the beginning of this week, was to try to see how market participants will be relating or reacting to that price zone around the $87 area and the $86 level, to see if we can have an inclination of where price is likely going to be heading to for this week. And to do that, we scaled down into the 1 hour time frame to see how market participants has been relating to that structure. Now, scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, this was what we saw during our live session yesterday. So we saw the range right here, price confined within it, and of course we waited for either the breakout or breakdown of that range to give us an opportunity to trade. And of course we have the buy position triggered at the breakout of that resistant line. And once again, congratulations to everyone who has been part of this profitable journey. Now, in preparation for today's trading session, how do we intend to capitalize on the uptrend continuation, or is there likelihood that sellers could come in at this point? Now, first of all, let me talk about the potentials of sellers here and how we can get ready to be part of any bearish move if price action move prepares to go to the downside. Now, look at where price action is right now. It's along the $87.50 level, and in fact, in the last couple of hours, we have been seeing the oscillation of price action around that area. So you will agree with me that this level had been a strong selling niche in the past. Look at what happened here. Look at what happened last week. We saw selling pressure around this area, and in fact, on the last trading day of last week, price was unable to touch that level. Now, during the New York session yesterday, we saw price come close into that area, but we saw a sharp rejection in that regard to further emphasize the strength of the sellers at that zone. Now look at what is going on in the last couple of hours. Price appears to have gradually gotten into the zone right now, and the question at this juncture is, will price action break out, retest the structure to incite that uptrend move, or are we going to be seeing continued selling pressure around that zone to incite a downtrend scenario? Now let's talk about this bearish expectations here. First of all, now if selling pressure continues around that area and price continue to form something like a reversal pattern or lower highs within this area, well, I would personally want to see price break down the $86.89 level to capitalize on a bearish move. However, if you look at the structure closely and consider what has been going on here since last week Friday, you will see a uniform and consistent higher lows in this market. Now if we bring out our line chart and connect the series of higher lows here, you can see that we have a beautiful ascending trend line that we can use to guide our trading decisions for today. So you do want to be marking out these levels on your chart, or this trend line on your chart. So when we bring back our candle chart, let's do some little adjustments so that it can capture most of the pivot lows here. So right now we have an ascending trend line to work with, and you know how we use our ascending trend lines in this community. As long as price remains above the ascending trend line, we shall continue to look out for patterns and structures that supports the idea of buying. Now if price action breaches this trend line, that is breaks the trend line to the downside, then at that point we want to start considering a momentum shift. So going back to what we are talking about here as regards to the expectations of sellers. So to sell this asset today, I would rather want to see price break down that ascending trend line first of all. And in fact, if price breaks down the ascending trend line, this will be the first time price will be breaking down of that trend line in the last 2 to 3 days now. Now, if this happens, remember, we are not getting too excited. We want to see some confirmations before we jump into this position. So to do this, immediately we sight the breakdown of that trend line, we want to scale down into our lower time frame, like the 10, 5 or 15 minutes time frame, to look out for signs that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above that ascending trend line. And of course, this would reflect on the chart as price retesting structure, where continued selling pressure on the lower time frame will incite a bearish move. And in fact, if price action continues to drop, breaking down the $86.89 level, remember this was the resistance line for the week at the beginning of the week, which was broken yesterday to incite this bullish momentum. And if this gets broken, continued selling pressure below the structure will be welcoming more selling opportunities in this market. And if price action continues to drop into this level, we also have the $86.20 level, then we'll continue to look out for more opportunities to maximize the potential of that bearish move. So this is the only condition here that we shall be looking out for to join any bearish move in this market. Now, in as much as we've talked about these bearish expectations here, let's go back to the bullish trend that has gripped this market since, at least let's go to just as far back as last week. Now, this ascending trend line here is a very significant parameter that we shall be using to guide our decisions for today. Now, what we are going to be looking forward to here is price breaking out of that $87.50 area. Now, a breakout of this area will be all we need to feel comfortable that we shall be going bullish for this week. Now, a breakout of structure for those who are already profitable, that is, those who took advantage of this buy position around this area, definitely you'll be in about 50 pips in profit at this point in time. So we can afford to have a buy stop, hereby leveraging on the profit we have made so far this week to test waters around the $87.50 area. However, if you are new with us and this is going to be your first time taking a trade on the US All Spot then I will be advising you to wait for confirmations before jumping into this position. So what we'll be looking out for is a breakout of structure first of all, scale down to the lower time frame where we look out for retest, and in fact the retest could be the $87.50 area, or it could even drop to as far as the trend line, where the appearance of buy pressure around that zone will be all we need to confirm it is time to join an uptrend move. Now you will see how important this trend line is at this current juncture in the market. So you do want to be marking that trend line out and those couple of levels I was able to identify here. So this is how we are going to be managing our position on the US oil spot for today. So we'll still maintain the bullish bias here, and not unless price breaking down and retesting that ascending trend line that we will start considering selling the US oil spot for today. So I don't know if you have any questions as regards to my explanations and illustrations, or you need further clarifications. Feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move right into the next financial asset on our watch list. So let me know in the comment section if you have any questions whatsoever. And of course, you can use that time to also mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. All right. So, in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page here. So, I wish you best of luck on this one. Let's see how the market will play out in that regard. So, I see your comment 6422. Hi, how are you? Thank you very much for checking in. And 7951 is asking how to recharge. Well, I will suggest that you do get in touch with the contact center, and they will definitely be willing to be of help in that regard. If you don't know how to get there, just go back to the home page of this app. Then at the top right hand side of your screen, you will be seeing the headset logo there. Click on it and you will be connected to the contact center. All right. Okay, so in the absence of no questions, let's dive right into the next financial asset on our watch list. So the next asset on our watch list for today is the USTech100, popularly known as the Nasdaq, and in fact we are doing pretty well on this asset so far in the last 24 hours, as we currently have two positions running in profit at this point in time. Now, we took advantage of the first position at the breakout of the 15,323 level. That was that right here. And we also added one more positions at the breakout of the 15,375 area. And in fact, we have a total of how many pips in profit right now? Hold on a second, let me mark. Okay, so we have from here, if you still have your buy positions running right now, we have 110 pips on this first move, and on the second move we have about 60 pips running in profit. So we have a total of over 150 pips in profit just for the first 24 hours of this week, which is not bad at all. This is a good start to the week. And of course, you know how we do it in this community. Whenever we have price move significantly well in our favor, we do want to be moving all our stop losses to secure this current position. And in fact, from what I think here, based on this current structure, we do want to be given enough room. So below the 15,400 and that second entry zone seems most appropriate to secure this current buy position. And of course, you know how we do it. We want to be given enough room for price action to breathe. Now, with this being said here, how do we, with a well secured position, what is going to be our plans for today? Well, first of all, let's look at what led to the idea of buying this asset. So, at the beginning of the week, we confirmed that price was confined within a range. This was where the week started here with a little bit of indecision before the breakout of that resistance line happened to trigger a buy position. And in fact, price moved up, came back to retest the zone to inside the next trend. So this was what led to the idea, and the question now going into the New York session is that will price action continue to find higher highs in this market, or is there chances that we will begin to see a retracement or a sell-off in this market? Now, if you look at what has been going on here since the later part of the New York session, you will notice that we have been observing some selling pressure around this area. So will this incite a retracement of that impulsive move that started this week, or are we going to be seeing a sell-off? Let's check the higher time frame to see that. Now I will be diving into the 4 hours time frame so that we can have an holistic perspective of what is really going on here. Now on the 4 hours time frame, taking into consideration the nature of price action since mid last month, it is quite obvious that price action has been on a strong bullish momentum. And to further emphasize the strength of the buyers, we have a couple of ascending trend line after connecting the series of higher lows here, as you will be seeing on your screen right now. And since the week began, we can see the strong bullish momentum breaking out of that our level had a 15,375 area to further emphasize the strength of the buyers. And there's one more thing we acknowledged here yesterday, which was the reversal pattern that emerged from a couple of weeks ago. We saw this impulsive move into that trend line. Price came into the 15,375, retested, and then we had something like a double bottom structure. And you know how we do it whenever we have these double bottom structures. The next thing we do is to identify a neckline which coincidentally lines up with the 15,375 level. Now with the breakout of that structure, this validates that reversal pattern, but we'll still need some momentum to break out of this supply niche here around the 15,550, which of course has been a barrier for buyers since the beginning of this month. Now, will this trend continue to the upside? Are we going to be seeing price come back to retest the neckline that was broken to incite an uptrend, or are we going to be witnessing an uptrend continuation pattern evolve here to incite that uptrend move? Now, to have a better perspective into what is going on here in the last 24 hours, we will need to scale down into a much more lower time frame. Now, I just needed us to see what things are looking like on the higher time frame so that when we scale down to the lower time frame, we will all be on the same page together. Now, scaling back down into the 1 hour time frame, things will now become a little bit much more clearer at this point in time. Now, the first thing I would like to do here, since last week Thursday, you will see price had consistently found higher lows. So I would like to connect the series of higher lows here, as we would need this trend line as a yardstick to guide our trading activities for today. So let's draw this out. Hold on a second. I think I'm not getting this quite all right. Hold on a second, please. Also, we wanted to touch as many as the pivot lows here. And in fact, when we bring back our candle chart, we'll begin to see things clearly. So we have something like, let us touch the pivot lows. Okay, beautiful. So we have a beautiful ascending trend line right now, which of course we shall be using to guide our trading decision for today. So as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our buy position and of course look out for more opportunities to buy. Now, in addition to that trend line is the highest point where price action has been for this week, which falls exactly at the 15,470 area. So we do want to be marking that level out too as well. So we have the 14,000. Okay, so we have the 14,470 level. So you want to be marking out this level on your chart, as we shall be using it as a yardstick to guide the uptrend move. So let's go back to our candle chart. Beautiful. So this is the highest point where price action has been since the beginning of this week, and in fact we saw a barrier there where sellers have continued to negate the bullish attempt. Now what we are going to be looking out for right now, since price still remains above that ascending trend line, is the breakout of the 14,470 area to give us an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. Now there are two ways to which we can capitalize on this opportunity right here. Now the first one is for those who have been with us since the beginning of the week. That is, if you had bought at this point, you bought here and you also bought here, definitely you will be in profit at this point in time. So we can afford to leverage on the profit we had made so far this week to test waters around the 14,470 to see if that bullish momentum is going to click. Now, to do that, we have our buy stop orders sitting anywhere above the 14,470, as you see here, to capitalize on the uptrend continuation. However, if you are new with us and this is going to be your first trade on the USTech100, that is, you're coming in from a clean slate, then I will be advising that you wait for some confirmations to happen before you jump in to that position. And what you want to be looking out for is a breakout of structure should happen first of all. Then we scale down into the lower time frame where we look out for retest of structure, where buying pressure emerges around that area and of course lines up with that ascending trend line to join that uptrend move. So this is how we are going to be capitalizing on buying an uptrend continuation in this market. However, in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunity here, we cannot ignore the potentials of sellers. I remember in the last couple of, let's see, since the beginning of this month, price has been on a strong bearish note, and in fact we saw here how the 15,550 zone had been a very strong selling niche in this market, giving us lower highs in that regard. Now, in as much as we're looking out for more buying opportunities above the 14,470, let's consider the potentials of the sellers too, as well as if this is going to be happening, how do we intend to capitalize on this move? Now, looking at the structure, we will be using the trend line as a yardstick, but I will prefer price action breaking down and retesting the 15,375 for me to join the bearish move. However, if we begin to see significant signal that price action will be going to the downside, we could be looking out for structures like lower lows and lower highs, then we can join even before the breakdown of that 15,375 happens. So now what are we going to be looking out for? Firstly, we want to see price breach this ascending trend line, break it to the downside. Remember, we are not getting too excited here. No sell stop order in place. All we want to be doing after the breakdown happens is to look out for signs that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above the ascending trend line, which of course would reflect on the chart as a retest of structure followed by continuous selling pressure, now a lower time frame. Then we could join, then have a sell stop order below the 15,375 to capitalize on the downtrend move. So you can see how important this ascending trend line is on this current structure. So you do want to be marking it out on your chart, and let's see how price action is going to be reacting to the structure going forward. So these are my views here on the US Tech 100. Very simple setup we have here. Let's see how the market will play out, and we shall be back here tomorrow to see how well this asset has been doing. However, if you have any questions as regards to my illustrations, or you need me to do further clarifications, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move right into the next asset on our watch list. All right. Okay, I see your comment. 558, good morning. 584, good morning to you too. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page, and I do hope you've marked out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decision. So on this note, I will be moving on to the next financial asset on our watch list. So the next asset on our watch list for today is the GBPUSD. Well, on the GBPUSD, the market is currently in a limbo right now, as you would have noticed that since last week, Tuesday, price has been confined within a huge range that is between the 1.253 and our key level at the 1.245 to further emphasize the level of uncertainty in this market. And in fact, the labor data coming in from the United Kingdom this morning is not really helping matters at all, as the pound sterling has been under some sudden pressure since we tested at 1.253 here yesterday. Now, I would like us to run through what we saw on the 1 hour time frame at the beginning of this week that led into the current situation we had. Remember, we had a buy position yesterday, and of course, if you are taking advantage of that move and moved your stop loss accordingly, you must have been taken out at a worst case scenario break even, as we shall be discussing in a moment. Now, the first thing we saw here on the GBP USD chart on the 1 hour time frame was how price action has been bearish since the beginning of this month. And to emphasize this, we connected a series of lower highs, which gave us this descending trend line that you will be seeing on your screen right now. Now, in addition to that descending trend line was a character in the market. You see, price has been finding lower lows and lower highs. However, during the second half of last week, I think from Thursday to be precise, we begin to notice some buy pressure here, where it became difficult for sellers to find lower lows. And when we begin to see such setup unfold on the chart, it's a sign that buyers are gradually gaining momentum behind the scenes. Then we took it a step further to identify the kind of pattern this price action is gradually transitioning into. And in fact, we were able to see something like a reversal pattern in the form of a double bottom structure. And you know how we do it whenever we have this kind of pattern. We want to be identifying the neckline, which coincidentally shares a confluence with that key level at the 1.25. And of course, it also lines up with that descending trend line, as you will be seeing here. And in fact, we saw the breakout of both the descending trend line and the neckline to confirm that double bottom structure which we saw here. And one of the things we discussed about this current structure yesterday was that for those who missed out on this opportunity at the breakout of the 1.25, we said that if price comes back to retest that structure, we shall be buying. And of course, price did come back. We saw a sharp rejection. So if you had your buy limit order there, price moved up a little bit as we saw a movement of about 45 pips before the sell pressure persisted around the 1.253 to inside the sell-off. And of course, if you had moved your stop losses, definitely you must have been taken out at the worst case scenario break even on this one. Now, we have no position running at this point in time as this selling pressure has taken over the market. Now, there's one thing I would like to refresh our memory about as what we discussed here yesterday. Now, we talked about the breakout of this descending trend line, and of course, we said that when price break out of a significant structure such as this descending trend line, we expect at some point in time that there will be some profit taking activities which would reflect on the chart as price coming back to retest the trend line that was broken. And you will see this price broke out the structure here, and price action appears to be gradually approaching that descending trend line. So the question now is, are we going to be seeing some retest of structure here or reversal pattern around this area that will incite the uptrend continuation that began yesterday? Well, time will tell on this one, so we need to be very, very patient around this area to see how the market will especially react to that zone between the 1.24620 and the 1.245 area to determine what our next line of action will be. So within this area, we want to see what happens. Are we going to be seeing a double bottom structure, a head and shoulder pattern, or whatever reversal pattern that comes in around that area? But most important thing we want to see here is that sellers are finding it difficult to break down or stay below this area. If this comes in and it reflects on the chart as persistent buy pressure, then we'll have no other choice than to get ready to be part of an uptrend continuation. So you would agree with me that we are at a crucial point in the market around this area. So let's see if we can begin to see some buy pressure around this area to give us an opportunity to join the uptrend move. Now, another thing I would like to call our attention to make things a little bit more clearer is the fact that this area between the 1.24620 and our key level at the 1.245 had been a major buying niche in this market since last week Thursday. As you will see here, whenever price comes into the zone, we saw our sellers have struggled as buyers always take over the market at that area. So right now we are back into that zone. Let's see how the market reacts. Any buy pressure, reversal pattern like double bottom structure, head and shoulder pattern will be welcoming the idea of joining an uptrend move. So that is how we are going to be buying the GBP USD for today. Now, this brings me to the sellers' expectations in this market. Remember, this market has been bearish since the beginning of this month, and the data from the United Kingdom hasn't been promising at all, especially the one we saw this morning, and hereby the market participant had reacted negatively to it by selling, dropping their pound sterling. Now, will this continue to the downside? That is a question I want us to be answering at this point. And of course, the answer here will be giving us an idea of how to join any bearish move. Now, one of the ways where we can look out for selling opportunities here is if price action drops below both the 1.24620 and the 1.25 area, which will now become the seller's territory, as we will be right back below that descending trend line. In fact, I would like to see some confirmations happen, like a retest of structure before I want to be jumping into that sell position here. So if price takes out all the buy positions here, it makes quite a lot of sense that we look out for selling opportunities. Now, I want to revisit that buying opportunities I talked about here. So, I told you how important this confluence is right here, where I said if buy pressure resumes around this area like double bottom structure and we were opportune to be part of that move, as soon as price gets into this area, please note this on your chart. You want to be moving all your stop losses to secure the current buy position. Now, the reason why that is simply because of that impulsive move that's reflected on the chart as a response to the GDP data, the data that came in from the United Kingdom this morning. Now, we saw this impulsive move to the downside, breaking down that zone. Let me mark it out again so that we can see. So it broke down the zone. Now, technically, we expect some retest of structure to happen. So if we had bought, we move our stop loss and see what happens around this area. If selling pressure persists and it becomes glaring that buyers are finding it difficult to break out of the 1.25, then we want to be part of that bearish move to the downside and of course add more positions, have a breakdown of that support line. So this is how we are going to be managing our positions on the GBP USD for today. So you do want to be marking out these levels on your chart right now, and let's see how the market will play out in the next couple of hours. And if you have any questions or you need me to clarify anything on this chart or anything of what I've said so far, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move right into the next financial asset on our watch list. So I see a comment here from Gizzy. Gizzy, good morning to you and glad to have you around. Gizzy is asking about AUD USD. Is it a sell or buy? Well, AUD USD is not part of the assets we have monitoring for this week. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to talk about that. But if I have enough time at the end of the session, probably after I take on the last asset right now, I could do a quick review of that asset, but you must be around for me to confirm that you are there to listen to whatever I like to say. So maybe after the XAUUSD, we talk about the XAUUS. Let me know you're around, and I will run through the AUD USD for you. All right. Okay. So in the absence of no questions, I want to be moving right into the next asset, which of course is going to be our last asset for today. So the next asset on our watch list for today is the XAUUSD, which is my favorite and popularly known as the gold spot. And in fact, we were looking out for buying opportunities here yesterday after considering that strong impulsive move we witnessed at the beginning of the week yesterday. And unfortunately, I was taken out in a loss on that one. So the week started on a negative note for me personally, but and for those who were part of that move, it's okay. The week is still very early, and in fact, there are still quite a lot of opportunities that the market is likely going to be presenting to us as the day moves forward. And that is why it is always important. I always reiterate this on our trading tip on a daily basis that it is necessary that you always risk whatever your emotions can handle on any particular trade. So you must be able to know if you'll be comfortable risking 2% of your portfolio size, 1% of your portfolio size, depending on your own temperament. This is one thing you want to include so that when you lose, you really not feel that pain as like losing like 50 or 70% of your account size. You really do want to live to trade another day. So let's ensure to include a strategic risk management approach in our trading repertoire. So at the beginning of the week, let's go back into the chart. So at the beginning of the week, we saw this level and price broke out, and we were looking out for buying opportunities around this area, but unfortunately it didn't work out as we saw sellers take over this market, pushing price to the downside. Now, with price dropping to the downside significantly at this point, what is going to be our plans and how do we intend to capitalize on any potential opportunities here? Now, for me to present a clearer perspective into what is going on here, I would like us to run through the higher time frame so we can have an holistic perspective of what is going on in this market. Now, on the daily time frame, for those who are with us at the beginning of the week, remember we had an interesting setup identified on this chart. Now, look at the daily time frame here. And since last year September, it's quite obvious that price action has been bullish. In fact, we have a couple of ascending trend line to emphasize the bullish momentum here. However, something interesting happened here. I begin to see something like a uptrend continuation pattern in the form of a falling wedge. So if we consider this impulsive move right here, we saw this old scenario right here, and then we had a falling wedge, which technically we look out for the breakout of that resistance line of that wedge to inside an uptrend situation. But I told us all yesterday that it is not all the time that such scenarios happen, as price has a mind of its own, of course, and it takes a new turn. That is why we always ensure that we are very dynamic in our approach and keeping all our options as open as possible so that we can capitalize on any potential opportunity the market presents to us. And in that regard, I talked about the potential of price action breaking down that key level at the 1915 and that ascending trend line to incite a sell-off. So I told you yesterday that we shall be looking out for selling opportunities only if price breaks down that 1915 area. And in fact, this level here is a very important and crucial point in this market, as it has been a major determinant of price action since the beginning of this year. And another thing about this zone here is the fact that it has also been a strong buying niche since the month of March of this year. As you will see how sellers have always struggled whenever price comes into that zone. Look at what happened here in the month of June. We saw what happened here in the month of August, and right now price is back into that area. So the question now is, will price respect that area like it has always been doing since the month of March to push price to the upside and of course respect that ascending trend line one more time? Or are we going to be having a situation where the breakdown retest will happen to incite a sell-off? Now, to have a better perspective into what is going on around that area, we would need to scale down to a much more lower time frame. Now, scaling down into the 4 hours time frame, let's see what we saw here yesterday. We saw this. Then we also identified an ascending trend line. As you will see right now, we had an ascending trend line right here, which appeared to have been broken in the last 24 hours. So if I zoom in to see what is going on here, so we saw this ascending trend line broken to the downside here. Now, with the breakdown of this ascending trend line, technically speaking, this is a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bearish attempt. And technically, when we cite a breakdown of a trend line like this, we expect at some point in time, if the market permits, we could see some retest of retracement back to retest structure before the bearish momentum happen. And in fact, I would love to see a retest of that trend line for me to feel very, very comfortable selling the XAUUSD today. And don't forget that we have our key level at the 1915, a level which has been a strong buying niche. Let's go to as far back as August. You see how buyers have come in to take over the market, and right now price is just right around that area, and it is currently oscillating above that level. So will it break down that structure, or are we going to be seeing buy pressure that will lead into a retest of structure to incite a downtrend move. Now, to have a better perspective here, we will scale down into the 1 hour time frame, where we shall be looking out for simple structures that will help us make a well-informed decision. So at this point in time, what I did on the 1 hour time frame was to consider what's happened since the early hours of yesterday. As you will see, as soon as price tested the 1928 level, we saw sudden pressure around that area, and in fact we have a descending trend line to work with for today. So after connecting the series of lower highs, we have a beautiful descending trend line that we shall be using. And what does this mean? It means that as long as price remains below the trend line, we shall feel comfortable selling the XAUUSD. And for those who are taking advantage of that opportunity around this area, in fact, well done to you for being on standby to have capitalized on that opportunity. But for those of us who are yet to capitalize on this bearish move, let's wait patiently for new structures to emerge before we jump into a position. Now, one of the structures we shall be looking out for is this. One of them is price coming back into either the trend line or the $1,921.50 level, where continued selling pressure around that area. That is, buyers are finding it difficult to break out of that descending trend line, and the $1,921.50 level will be all we need to incite a downtrend scenario. So let's keep this in mind. We look forward to price retracing back into that trend line to incite the downtrend continuation. However, if price does not go that far and instead it continues to drop to the downside, then we will have no other choice than to look out for selling opportunities below the structure. So if price continues to drop, then I want to see something like this retest of either the 1915 or the $1,916.50 level on our lower time frame to join that downtrend move to the downside. So this is how we are going to be capitalizing on this sell momentum that has gripped this market in the last 8 to 10 hours now. However, in as much as we're looking out for selling opportunities on the XAUUSD today, um, we cannot ignore the potentials of buyers, and remember how this area above the 1915 has been a strong demand zone since the beginning, since the month of March of this year. And if buy pressure resumes here, which I doubt will happen the way this momentum is going right now, if buy pressure resumes here, I will be suggesting that a breakout of that trend line will be all we need to confirm that we are going bullish. So any bullish opportunity here should be negated at this point in time unless it is broken, price breaks out, retest that descending trend line, then we can now start considering buying. But at this point in time, you can see what is going on right now. Price has just broken down both that zone between the $1,916.50 level and the 1915. So I want to see some retest of structures to happen around this area. So if we scale down into the 15 minutes time frame, let me see if there is something yet. Okay, there is nothing yet at this point. So let's be mindful of this. And if I think I have some structures here on the 15 minutes time frame that you might want to use to guide selling a sell continuation here. So we have a trend line here which you want to be marking out. So if price comes back to retest this and we continue to see certain pressure, then we could consider the downtrend scenario here. So that is how we are going to be trading the XAUUSD. And for those who are joined this bearish momentum earlier than this, well done to you. Ensure you move your stop losses, secure your positions while we continue to monitor price action. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. So you do want to be marking out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we draw the curtain for today. Let's see what we have here. I don't know if Gizzy is still around. If you're still around, let me know in the comment section so we can take on your AUD USD. And if you're not, then we'll call it a day here. All right. So, in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. So, we shall be drawing the curtain now. In fact, it has been a wonderful day, and we were able to attend to four financial assets: the US All Sports, the US Tech 100, popularly known as the Nasdaq. We also attended to the XAUUSD and, of course, the GBPUSD, all of which we were able to identify simple setups using parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical price movement of those markets. So I hope we were able to mark out those levels, as we shall be using them as a reference point to guide our independent trading decisions for today. And in fact, I'm very confident that we are well equipped to be able to attend to any position, any direction, or any situation the market presents today, as we were able to simulate all the potential possibilities that could happen in the markets today. So on this note, I wish you all the best of luck, and for those who are joining us for the first time, I do hope you are able to gain one or two things from what we discuss here today. And in fact, the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding what we do here, and eventually be able to use the information to gathered here to make your own independent trading decisions. So once again, you are welcome, guys, and I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, as we come here again to review how well these assets have been doing. And of course, don't forget that tomorrow is another major day as we look forward to the CPI data tomorrow. So you don't want to miss that session. I hope to see you then, everyone. Do have a wonderful and beautiful evening, and bye bye.